freedom. It'll always be freedom.
Welcome to Conversations in Anarchy. Anarchapulco's Non Conformist Series, 7th edition, Unleash Your Wealth, Claim Your Freedom, is just around the corner. And today we are continuing spotlighting visionaries redefining what wealth really means. And on December 29th to 30th, a powerful lineup of innovators will show us how tools like cryptocurrency, precious metals, and other assets can radically enhance our lives, not by chasing the next trend, but remembering something essential. Money is a tool, and tools are meant to empower us. And today I have two of the speakers present. Please welcome Bleish Bonandin and Shane Radliff. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for being here today. How are you doing?
Hi, Laura. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. First thing I always ask is to introduce yourself to the audience that meet you for the first time. Kat, would you like to start?
Sure. My name is Kat. Some of you know me as Catherine or Katerina. I am the producer of Anarchapulco. I've been a part of Anarchapulco since 2018. When I came down, I had a gut feeling, and I came down and my whole life changed. I have been a libertarian activist since 2006 when I got involved with the Ron Paul campaign, and that took me all over the United States, and now I get to travel the world, and it's just been a really, really interesting experience. And Dr. Ron Paul is who introduced me to the concept of sound money. So during that time period, I was trying to help get him elected as the Republican candidate for president in the United States. A lot of our audience here at Anarchapulco is international, so you may or may not have heard of him, but he really educated a lot of people about the philosophy of liberty. And for me, his education included an understanding of what money is. What is sound money? What is fiat money? What is barter, trade? I started learning about concepts like Austrian economics. I started learning about agorism. I went to the Porcupine Freedom Festival for the first time in 2009. And that was where I learned about the debate between minarchy and anarchy. And I saw people actually trading silver. And I'm so excited. We're going to have a really, really cool silver barter system set up at Anarchapulco this year. We're trying to get back to our roots. So that's who I am. I'm a mom. I live on an intentional community. And I feel passionate about getting my life into alignment with the philosophy that I believe in, which is a lowercase l, libertarian, voluntarist, philosophical, anarchist way of living. And I have found that as I get more into alignment, people become more and more curious about what we're doing, and they are a lot more willing to participate in what we're doing. Whereas the early days with the Ron Paul campaign, I was like really angry, like one of those like protesting activists. And I found that actually repelled some people. And so now I think I found a path where we're, attracting moths to the flame. And I'm really excited about this.
Thank you so much, Kat. What about you, Shane?
I definitely resonate with that. But yeah, as far as for me, I stumbled across Bill Cooper back when I was 19 or 20. And for those who may not be familiar with Bill Cooper, he was big time, big time conspiracist of the 90s. And I listened to I stumbled across him when I was like 18 or 19, and first thing I came across was his 9/11 prediction on June 28, 2001. He said, "Whatever they're going to blame on Bin Laden, don't you even believe it?" And I was like, "Who is this guy?" I watched it in 2011 or 2012 or whatever. So like, who is this guy? And that sent me down this path of like 2,000 hours of his radio show, his documentaries, all of that. And I don't agree with everything now, but that set me off, back when I was 19 or 20, to the point where, I tried working 9 to 5 jobs. I tried to do higher level indoctrination in college, but that servile environment just didn't work. Just didn't work for me. So I from when I was in higher level indoctrination, I was having a hard time finding a job at that time. So crypto was huge. It was absolutely huge. That was back I guess around the first big bull market. Um, and I was I would I'd buy an altcoin. I'd wait a day or two, and a lot of them would go up like 200x in a couple of days, and then I'd sell to Bitcoin, and I'd buy gift cards or I'd sell it to PayPal, and as much of a non know your customer fashion as I could. Um, and yeah, I mean, for some time that was crypto was the lifeline, and yeah, as the years have gone on, it definitely hasn't lessened. Definitely hasn't lessened. Obviously, I explore solutions like gold backs and silver and copper. We've accepted copper coins for books and such, which is cool. But crypto in this highly digital world, like we can't escape technology, so we have to have our own tools that enable freedom and sovereignty and decentralization and censorship resistance and all those buzzwords that are buzzwords, but very very true. um yeah, I guess that's and I guess beyond that, I do there were some other steps in there, but to keep it short, I do the Vonu podcast, a podcast exploring the philosophy and practice of Vonu, a freedom strategy founded in the 1960s alongside the counterculture movement. And then I also do Liberator type publications where we publish freedom oriented books, audiobooks. We even sell privacy tools like ghost pads and ghost phones, privacy enhanced devices. If you're mining Bitcoin, if you're mining crypto, if you're storing crypto, you want to do it on a device that you can trust and that doesn't have a that's not snitching on you, or that's sharing all your data and information to a third party like Microsoft or something. But yeah, I guess that's well, I guess the other thing too is Paznia, the Free Public Paznia. We're building a parallel network, um, and yeah, I guess I'll kind of pause there. But yeah,
Shane, what was the name of the book publishing company?
yeah, Liberty Under Attack Publications. Yep.
Liberty Under
Yep.
Attack.
Yep. LibertyUnderAttack.com.
And I can share that if anyone is interested in getting to know more about what Wanu is, Shane has an audiobook on YouTube totally for free. And his voice is really pleasant to listen to. So it's going to be much easier to listen to this. So yeah, thank you for putting it out. So guys, if we go back to this upcoming series, kind of aim to remind us that money is a tool and tools are meant to empower us. Can you think of an example from your own life when you used money more intentionally and you really could feel that it gave you freedom?
Yeah, I guess I can. Yeah, for me, I know like when I'm paying or receiving Bitcoin or Monero, Kat was talking about learning about free market economics and the scam of the fiat system. Well, there's nothing more scammy than I mean, well, I guess it's not. Well, I guess it's just the nature of it is sometimes you have to pay cash. But whenever I pay someone cash, like I don't feel good about handing out for that dollar bill, right? Like all the blood and coercion and all the theft that's behind that dollar bill. But whenever I, pay or receive, Bitcoin or Monero, that's hard money. Like that's hard money compared to, that's much harder money. And it's tended to, increase in value. So whenever you pay someone in Monero or Bitcoin or something like that, and the value goes up, it shows that like the people that you're working with, you're like, to me, it's like a sign of respect when someone pays you on something and an asset like crypto, Bitcoin or Monero or whatever. So yeah, I guess that's one, I guess one answer, is in terms of how crypto can empower. I mean, yeah, that's yeah. Contrary to the servile society where the base is that that fraudulent money, we can we have our own money now. Yeah, we have our own money.
What about you, Kat? Can you remember
Well,
that
I have two
time?
examples. One is that my ex-husband and I, we actually lived in a converted school bus called the Bitcoin.com bus. And we traveled the United States actually giving people Bitcoin. And at the time, Paul Pui, who is the founder of the Edge wallet, he reached out to me on Twitter. Before we got the bus, we were traveling in vehicles and we were doing these agorist tours where we were spending only silver, barter, or Bitcoin the first year, which would have been like 2013. And then 2014, we went on a Bitcoin only tour. And his original app was called Airbits. And now it's the Edge wallet. But inside Airbits, he reached out on Twitter and he said, hey, look, we have a map of all of these places that are willing to accept Bitcoin. And so what we did is we very on purpose traveled specifically to places listed on this map that were willing to take Bitcoin. And I'm talking coast to coast, literally California to New York and everywhere in between. New Orleans, Kansas City, Denver, Las Vegas, Sedona, and we hosted meetups in these locations teaching people about Bitcoin. So by the time 2016 came around, we were gifted the Unschool bus, which we renamed the Bitcoin bus, and Bitcoin.com came on and sponsored our tour. And we went from meetup to meetup, teaching people about Bitcoin. And then we went from restaurant to coffee shop to wherever trying to spend Bitcoin. And very often we would show up and we would be the first and only people to have ever spent Bitcoin at this restaurant. Because I mean, this is early adoption, right? And so sometimes being able to pay them could take up to an hour because there might be a bartender behind the bar at a restaurant. And they're like, well, I have to process this payment, but I have no idea how to do it. And the owner's out of town, so they got to call them and get the wallet. And, so this was a major time and energy investment on our end. We were literally helping to build the network. We were showing up. You're willing to take this payment. You don't know how to take it. We're going to teach you. We're going to make sure you get your first Bitcoin. Thank you for being willing to receive these resources. Oh man, I wish we'd held on to a couple of those Bitcoins. I didn't. I would be a bazillionaire by now, I'm sure, because the first Bitcoin to pass through my hands was at $3. But I actually think that I'm a success story in that way because I have used the cryptocurrency as a currency, not as an investment, not as, I want to get rich, but literally we were hand to mouth with Bitcoin in the early days. And so this was exciting and fun and liberating and really hard. There were times where, because in order to buy gasoline with Bitcoin, you had to buy gift cards and you had to have them mailed to you ahead of time, right? And if, oh no, one of these gas stations isn't on our route from New York to the Porcupine Freedom Festival in New Hampshire, now we got to reroute an hour this way to get gas. And so it was really complicated. And we had some, instances of things that were really, really stressful. And we were featured in Yahoo News and, just all over because what we were doing was cutting edge. It was groundbreaking and it was really, really neat. So that was super empowering. And, if I heard people saying, Bitcoin's going to be worth $100,000, but we were broke activists. We weren't in a position to hold any of it. And I wish we had, but we made it our job to help build the infrastructure that allowed it and the network that allowed it to actually scale to the level it has. And then secondarily, with Anarchapulco, we have had so many banking issues, right? When you're sending wire transfers all across the world, we have an event in Serbia, we have an event in Mexico, we have speakers who come from literally every continent. We've got attendees who come from every continent. So money's moving over international borders in all sorts of directions, and our account gets shut down sometimes. And so what I have found is, wow, it costs less to pay my vendors in Bitcoin. It goes a lot faster. And I don't have to spend all this time on the back end of the, banking system, plugging in wires and getting it all set. I can just boom, 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 send a transaction really, really quick. So in those two ways, one, being an early Bitcoin builder, right, that felt really empowering. I felt like I was the queen of the road, driving in our bus, spending Bitcoin, buying gasoline, getting food, going to restaurants. We ate at Crackle Barrel a lot because we would do gift cards through Gift, GYFT, and we would stop at Whole Foods and eat there because we could shop at Whole Foods on Bitcoin. So, I mean, those were really interesting times. And now for work, crypto is the most functional part of the financial workings of Anarchapulco. I can send money very easily. We lost an entire bank account because we were doing business in Serbia. They just shut us down and won't let us reopen it. So, we have had an instrumental part, in my opinion, of setting up hotels, restaurants, taxi drivers, everybody in Acapulco who we worked with pretty much was willing to take cryptocurrency. It was very rare that they weren't willing to. And now we get to do that again in Puerto Vallarta. Now that the event is moving, we get to help build that economy in Puerto Vallarta. So I think both through my work and my personal activism, cryptocurrency has been singularly the most empowering way that I have been able to manage money. But there's also some other things, like I'm proud to be debt free. That feels really, really good. That feels very empowering. I did Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. If you guys have never heard of that, he's a radio host, and if you're in a bad financial situation, I highly recommend you check out Dave Ramsey, Financial Peace University. He talks about how to get out of debt and get your affairs in order, make sure that you've got proper insurance set up, and, all these different things, especially if you have children that you need to provide for. So I feel like I went from a place where I was, wearing a badge of honor that I'm a starving activist, to starting a family and realizing maybe starving isn't the goal here. I don't need to give away everything. And so now, as I'm in my 40s and I'm kind of shifting into, what does wealth building look like for me? How do I leave a legacy for my children and my family? What is that going to look like? And how do I retire sooner than later? Because I love my job, and gosh, it would be nice to work a little bit less. So, yeah, that's the long-winded answer from me.
Thank you, Kat. So, but for those that are totally new to crypto, like, for example, myself, I have a partner who has been into crypto for a while, but for me, it is still something that seems difficult. And I guess for someone who has no one around that have been going this way, it might also feel like, oh my God, everything is so past my possibilities to jump into this train, and it's too difficult and too risky. What would you say to those total beginners that think like that, or are really unsure and scared to do that?
I guess the user friendliness has come down a lot. Kat was talking about back in 2015, trying to get businesses onboarded. So the user friendliness has come down a lot to the point where it's to compare it to a mainstream banking app. It's the user interface is a lot simpler. The process is smooth. Obviously if you see a long address string like that, it can be scary. But there's so many so many tutorials and starting points out there now, guides getting going in Bitcoin, and they're really I guess or in crypto, and they're really only it's they're some I guess just some base I guess some I don't know, I guess that'd get probably too into Bitcoin specifically, but I guess that's the point I would make, is that user friendliness has come down a lot. User friendliness is in a decade. So yeah, that's my answer.
I would say for first-time users, get the Cash App. Cash App lets you buy and sell Bitcoin, and you can set up automatic recurring payments, $10 a month, whatever. This is going to be on the books, right? This is a taxable event, because this is not advice on how to hide money or keep it secret or not, whatever. But if you want the simplest, most easeful way to just get practice, that is an easy way to do it. If you're looking for, private money exchange and these types of things, then you got to start looking into Monero and, some other coins. I'm not an advisor in that regard, but I have experience using all of these coins, especially through my work. And I stand by Edge as the wallet that is the most user friendly, because I am able to set up in a wallet, here's the LibrePoco Bitcoin address, the Anarchapulco Bitcoin address, the LibrePoco, the auction address, the whatever, and I can keep it very organized. And it has all the different types of coins in there. And I found it to be super, super user friendly. And I am not a person who likes change. Okay. Like, I was pissed when Airbits became Edge. Like, I was so mad because I loved Airbits. It was such a good wallet. And I kept using it. And they're like, hey, you're going to become vulnerable because we're not pushing updates to this app anymore. Like, switch over. And so finally I switched over, and I've just had the most wonderful experience with it. Some of the other wallets are limited in how many coins they can offer and da. So if you're looking for something that can handle Xano, Monero, Bitcoin Cash, I have found that Edge is just super, super user friendly. I use it daily. And Paul Play, the founder, he will be at Anarchapulco, and he's super responsive if you have questions or need help or anything like that. And that's my advice. Cash App first, just to learn it, see how easy it is, and then Edge. And then, of course, if you don't want to risk any money, take it as payment.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never really bought crypto. It always came in as part of the cash flow into my family life or my business life. So take it as a payment in exchange for goods, services, time, energy, whatever. And that could be a really simple way to get started. And then the person who's paying you can help step you along if you're confused.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I guess I will mention, that was, I wasn't sure how far I wanted to get into it technically, but yeah, it's like with for privacy, yeah, earning it is definitely the way to go. If you can find a Bitcoin miner to buy from, that's a great solution to acquire Bitcoin privately. And that's really, like, for Bitcoin privacy now, that's the way you have to do it, is acquire it non KYC without going through an exchange. And then you have to do some extra steps for Bitcoin privacy. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I guess that's the best advice. I'm glad you mentioned that, Kat. That, yeah, the best way to get started is just to earn it. And once you start earning it, it'll snowball, and it'll snowball once you feel the liberation that comes with with crypto.
So thank you guys for advice. So if somebody wants in life assistance, then should go to, for example, Anarchapulco to meet Paul from the Edge Wallet and all the other people into crypto long time. And Paul from Edge Wallet gonna be present at the Non Conformist Series as well. I'm sure he probably gonna be sharing some valuable information. But there is one more thing when it comes to all changes in life, basically, but maybe money and wealth is one of those that requires even more, and that's change in the mindset. That, like, as you mentioned, Kat, about the starving activist, that also also I was actually, on Thursday, so yesterday I was present at my daughter's school. It's one of the Waldorf or Steiner schools here in Norway, and the Christmas thing that they do is this Christmas play that basically tells Mary's and Joseph's journey to Bethlehem and how the Christ gets born, and the whole story in a simple way. And there it is talked about, why do they have to go to Bethlehem because they have to pay their taxes basically, and how everyone that are kind of nice and sweet and helpful, those are the poor guys, the those that are not so wealthy. And I know that in my culture, that is Latvia, all the fairy tales are about how the rich ones are greedy and awful, and the poor ones are the smart ones, or have to be the smart ones to survive and to trick. So I think it's also part of indoctrination that to be wealthy is in a way not so good. I don't know. But I know also that I can struggle with this mindset shift, becoming my own boss, for example, instead of being employee. What could you tell about this mindset shift? Have you like Shane, you shared this that you were trying to do these 8 to 4
Oh
kind
yeah.
of jobs, and yeah, how did you come to the state where you are, and is it difficult
Mhm.
to be there? Yeah, could you share a bit?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, like, obviously with my upbringing and, society, like I thought I had to go down a path just because I was, a part of, just because I was here again, like the college and, the 9 to 5 and all that. So, yeah, like I guess first and foremost, and it's hard. Rayo talked about back in the 1960s that, and I'm going to paraphrase, but like the first step is to exercise those collectivist spooks. Basically that like your freedom or your life totally depends upon those the opinions of those around you, which is obviously hard when most everyone's day is raised in kind of the collectivist culture. So that's one of the biggest things is kind of breaking free from that, and then and further. The other thing that's going through hell of indoctrination, like the socialist and communist propaganda that money's bad, that money's evil, and it's like, well, no, just like with cryptocurrency or or crypto technologies in general, it's not. No, they're not bad. It's about how they're used. And the big realization, I guess, the big realization for me, I guess, I don't know, it might have been 5 years ago or whatever. But making money isn't bad, but like the entire thing is about trying to bring your actions in line with your principles. Um, so if you can make a lot of money and keep your and do it in a moral and ethical way, then obviously there's nothing wrong with that. But obviously, exploiting and coercing people is where that becomes a problem. But that can be a problem with anything beyond just money. So yeah, I guess that'd be and speaking to, for me in particular, it was just about and maybe it's just experience is the way, but coming up against that the first realm of survival society every single day with my work and my in my school, it was just the constant friction that it wasn't even really a choice for me anymore. It was just kind of like if I was going to survive, if I was going to have freedom and happiness, like then that's what had to be done. And it was yeah, right before I guess I guess leading up to it, I got this apprenticeship, electrician's apprenticeship. It's going to be a really, really good gig. I had plans for, 5, 10 years down the road, starting at Gorist Electric and, hitting the road and helping people set up their off-grid, off-grid van setups, like for their electricity. I had, these big plans, and 6 months later, like I just kind of, I don't know, there wasn't any reason or logic to it, but I just kind of, I quit my job and then moved to Austin, Texas for a couple months, and then ended up in Acapulco with Henza, and just basically, I don't know, and that's why like my experience may not be highly relevant to people because it's not like something you can set out and do. It was something I was kind of forced into. So maybe that's the best answer is that like um, you know, I guess maybe it's more about timing than effort. Maybe it has to be the right time. I don't know. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
What about you, Kat, from starving activist to to something else?
Well, I
What would
definitely
you?
think timing is a lot of it, like Shane was saying. I actually really enjoyed school and I enjoyed college and I got my master's degree and um, I was very interested in the nonprofit sector. So my master's in public administration, my degree was in nonprofit management. And what I focused on was strategic planning. And I thought, I'm going to be of service to the world. And so that's where I was in 2006. I was finishing my master's degree, going to college, and I had an internship at the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. And this guy sitting behind me kept saying, "You're not a liberal, you're a libertarian." And I'm like, no, I'm a liberal. I promise. I'm anti-war. I'm a liberal. And he's like, nah, you are not. The words coming out of your mouth are libertarian. And so that's when I was introduced to Dr. Ron Paul. And he showed me a speech where Dr. Ron Paul was making a speech before Congress that was anti-war. And I had this like mind-blowing, like earth-shattering, my paradigm blew up, right? Because there was a Republican talking about ending the war. Well, that doesn't fit the script, right? The Democrats were anti-war. I'm a liberal. And so I had this complete like existential crisis. And because I was already on this path of stewardship and service, I took that into my political journey. And so I thought, I will be a volunteer forever. I loved the Ron Paul message so much. I cashed out my 401k. I started to, I used to work for United Parcel Service. I did safety compliance training there. And I quit all my jobs. I temporarily quit grad school and I went all in on Ron Paul. And I had this idea in my head that I could be a volunteer forever. I thought, well, I'm doing such good work. People will surely just donate. Well, then I ran out of money. And nobody was funding my life. And so I went through this period of several years where I felt like my philosophy of living free was clashing up against this poverty mindset and this poverty way of being. And so I was on the mainstream track, and I was 22 years old and introduced to Ron Paul, and it shattered everything for me. And I literally read my journals from 2009 in the past couple of years, and I revoke these statements now. But at the time, I wrote, "I'm going to volunteer forever. I'm of service forever. I don't need any money." Like, I'm writing this stuff. I revoke that. I do love money. Money can come to me, and I would love to get paid for work. And if you got a job for me that's in alignment with my time, skills, and abilities, hit me up. I got a nonprofit here, Greenbrier Intentional Community, that's really in need of some money. And I had to have children to break out of this mindset. Honestly, that's what it took. It was going to a food bank with my children while running an anarchist bookstore in downtown Austin, right? Service. I'll work side jobs to pay the bookstore's rent, but I got to go get free food. But I'm too proud to take food stamps, and I'm too proud to I'm an anarchist, so I'm not going to get on the government dole, right? And so I was living this excruciatingly difficult life, and I had children. I said, I can't do this anymore. I got to change the way things are functioning in my life. And actually, it was through my path with Anarchapulco that's where I really started getting paid to do activist stuff, right? And I was able to take my education. I did end up finishing my master's degree, and thankfully that came through the post-political movement, which kind of hit through the Austin, Texas community in 2011, where everyone was going post-political because Ron Paul didn't win and we were moving on from politics. And they did a fundraiser for me to pay my tuition so I didn't have to go into debt. And I paid my last semester of my grad school program was funded by the libertarian activist community, and it was wonderful. And now I use what I learned with strategic planning, and I use it at Anarchapulco. And so what I had to do to break through that mold was a lot of meditation. I mean, I had the whole year of 2000, I guess it was 17, I was leaving my ex. I had no bank account because I was a very philosophically consistent activist, right? I had no driver's license. I no longer had a car because he and I sold the car that I owned when we got together. I had nothing, right? Except that was the year I think Shane was talking about when those altcoins were popping off. That was a good time to have a little bit of crypto and stretch it a really long way. And so I rode that wave a little bit while we were separating our lives. And I would play these Lakshmi mantras. Lakshmi is, a Hindu goddess of abundance. And I would play these Lakshmi mantras over and over and over, and I would meditate and I would imagine money coming to me, because the only visualization and mindset that I had was money going out, give, 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 give. I had no concept of receive, right? And so I spent a lot of 2017 learning how to open that channel to receive. And I finally tapped into it, and this is the most abundant time of my life right now. But I've watched like Greenbrier Intentional Community, where I live. When we first got here, they didn't charge tuition. So they had volunteer teachers who were exhausted and children attending without paying anything. And there was so much pressure on the people running it, and to talk them into charging tuition, because by this point I'm already in my elevated money mindset, and I didn't feel like that was appropriate for them. I'm like, hey, if you guys want to continue to do this and have longevity, you got to start to receive. You can't just give, 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 give. And so I think I've been in part of the reason and the progression for Greenbrier's growth. And it was shifting that mindset of a group of people, because this is a nonprofit, and the nonprofit is here to serve and to give and to give and to give. But in order to give, as a parent, as a member of a society, as a community, as a school, you have to first receive, or you will not have enough to give. And so by the time I became so depleted that I don't feel like I could have been a good mom any longer, because I didn't have any resources, my health was declining, my housing situation became unstable, I had to rewire my brain. I literally had to rewire my brain. And I think ayahuasca had a little bit to do with it, but I think the biggest thing was meditation and changing the story I was telling in my head. And it was hard, and it took years. But I think, so that probably started in 2017. So here we are. It's now 2025, and I feel fully on board with I'm deserving. My work is high quality, high caliber. I know that I am worth resources, and I don't have to give indefinitely. And in fact, the more boundaries I set around what I do offer, society, community, anarchy, family, whatever, the more fulfilled I am, and the more I can give. And as I'm saying this out loud, I realize I've overgiven this fall, and I'm glad we're having this conversation, because I need to rein it in a little bit.
So, guys, let's talk about what you're going to be talking about on the Non Conformist series without giving too much away. So, what's from you, Kat?
Well, I was going to be telling some of the stories from our time on the road. I've been pulling up some photos and videos and just some of the examples of what it really took to build the Bitcoin infrastructure in the early days. We traveled coast to coast, like I said, and we visited all these mom and pop shops and Bitcoin Boulevard in Cleveland, Ohio, and a lot of time and energy really went into that. And what I have found personally is that crypto is an amazing tool for real life. And sure, if you want to invest, whatever, but that's not where I'm coming from cryptocurrency. I see it as a currency, as something that should move value from one person to another, from one group to another. And I find that it is completely liberating, and it's an amazing, amazing resource. So I'll be talking about some of the practical ways to actually use cryptocurrency as a currency, which is pretty exciting and fun and not so hard anymore, like Shane was saying.
That's really great, Kat, because I feel that most of the people are probably not into trading, that are interested also in crypto, and that will be very inspiring. What about you, Shane?
Yeah, so obviously, like I was telling a little bit earlier, I'll go through my my path and some of the tools I used early on, and how crypto wasn't just a tool. It was pretty critical for 6+ months of my life. But in my talk, it's called Routing Around the Servile Society, and double check. Yeah, routing around the Servile Society, cryptocurrency is a tool and strategy for liberation. So basically, that's at the end of the day, that's the question for me. If a tool is worth using for me, that's the answer has to be yes. Can I use it to route around the first realm, the Servile Society? But yeah, I'll start with individual solutions. The potential individual solutions that I've used are ones that I could recommend to folks. Then I get on to more community solutions. I mentioned Pasnia briefly a little bit ago. It's a parallel network. And back in 2001, one of our members started called the Pasnia General Bitcoin Fund, which it's now the General Monero Fund. But basically, it's a fund that we use to develop the second realm. The Servile Society has a lot of free money and subsidies to build up their nonsense and their coercion. So we have to have our own fund too. So we've got it's for mutual aid. It's for I think we helped someone build up a chicken project, an off-grid chicken project. Legal defense funds, pretty much anything that could pretty much anything that's beneficial to the second realm or beneficial to individuals within our community. And then, bigger community solutions like monetized mesh networking, monetized file storage, and how cryptocurrency is a foundational necessity. Like things changed in 2008 when it comes to like decentralized infrastructure as a whole. So I'll go into more community-wide and even like worldwide network solutions, networking solutions when it comes with cryptocurrency. I guess that's pretty much it. Solutions starting from the individual up to the very largest scale. So yeah.
Thank you so much. So you both guys are very down to earth. That's going to be helpful for many people, I'm sure. And Kat, if people go to anarchapulco.com and check out the speakers for the Non Conformist series and they click on your profile, one of the sentences they will be able to read is that each sovereign individual becomes a building block of a free society. So guys, do you see blockchain, where no single authority controls the system, as a structural expression of that idea? And if so, what does it demand from us as individuals? So Kat, maybe you want to start answering this. How do you see that?
Yeah, I love it that you connected those two together because I hadn't before. And yes, to answer your question, I definitely see the blockchain in that way. I think that when it comes to resources that are shared within the community or between communities, it is important that they're decentralized. I think often centralization is appropriate when you own a business or when you're running your family. You don't want to leave that up to the discretion of other people, right? Like, I don't need you voting on how my household runs, right? So decentralizing down to the household, etc. And when we're talking about money, systems that are used as a community, what we have found, obviously, by looking at the way government deals with money, is that as it becomes centralized, it also becomes corrupted. And there's a quote, I actually don't know the original person or people who said it, but it's absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that is so evident with money, right? Every single central bank comes down eventually. Every single fiat dollar comes down eventually. We end up with hyperinflation. I mean, these patterns are predictable and trackable, and they fit a mold. And unfortunately, human nature has a tendency toward both centralization and corruption. And it's something that we have to be constantly self-reflecting on. It's something that we have to constantly be aware of. And that's why I think accountability mechanisms within community is so important. And in a situation like a blockchain cryptocurrency, those accountability mechanisms are worked in already, right? And so it's very difficult for somebody to come in and completely hijack. Now, of course, there's hackers and people with a lot of money, and there's, I feel like Steemit got kind of railroaded by, I can't remember the exact details, but some Chinese company came in and bought a whole bunch of Steemit coin, and they kind of took over that blockchain. And so then there was a spinoff, and it was Hive after that. And they forked the Steemit blockchain and they created Hive. And so even though we do have that tendency toward centralization and toward corruption, when you have something like a blockchain technology, you can fork off of it. Oh, Steemit became centralized and we feel that it's corrupt and we don't trust it anymore. We're forking to Hive, right? And then people have choices. They can say, well, I actually like the way these Chinese corporate whatevers are running Steemit. I'm going to keep blogging there and earning my Steemit coin, and everyone else can go to Hive. Fine, you have choices. You get to do what you want. But that's the beauty of decentralization, of open source technology, of the blockchain. So yes, I think that strong, aware individuals, they are really the basis of a free society. And when those people are engaging in an economy together, you can have a really beautiful thing happen. And it's when things become centralized or corrupt that we have a problem. And I mean, it's even hard within the libertarian community for people to hold each other accountable. I mean, this is so strongly embedded in our human nature, right? And I'm sure there's like biblical stories about it and philosophical stories about it, and ancient what this is something that humanity has dealt with as long as humanity has been documenting its progress through this world. So I think as technology evolves and we watch these systems grow and evolve, we will become uncorruptible because we will use technology that has accountability built into it, and that actually will seep out into those other systems, right? You see, oh, the governments want to use Bitcoin now, and and so as these systems are realizing that these things work and they latch onto them, our community's onto the next wave, right? That's where Monero came from. That's where Xano came from. That's where these next steps in the evolution of technology. And the internet was a big deal. Cryptocurrency was a huge deal. And I'm really excited to see what's next. But I think our job is to just be the best people that we can, and to do business and life with people who are being the best people that they can. And we can kind of create that parallel society like Shane was talking about with what's it called? Pasnia, which I'm super curious to learn more about. I'm excited about your presentation, Shane.
Thanks, Kat. Likewise. Yeah.
Shane, do you want to?
Yeah. So I guess what's on my mind at the moment is that like with technology, humanity is learning with technology now, and it's kind of the hard way. When the internet was brought about in the 90s, very early on, it was peer-to-peer and decentralized. And then the commerce angle came into it, and it kind of I guess we found out the hard way that the internet's become highly centralized. And I guess in a lot of ways humanity has. But I think this is a very this is a very big learning time where the technologies that are becoming available, and the people that utilize those technologies are the ones that are going to build that build the parallel society that's that we're trying to build. And I guess that the ethos behind crypto anarchy or just Bitcoin in general, don't trust, verify. Reputation is a big deal in decentralized reputation. For sure. And just as like a lot of times fiction, fiction mimics real life, and real life mimics fiction, or vice versa. Like the digital world is kind of inseparable from the physical world now. And that's what I would say is that I love the expression like proof of work when it comes to blockchain technology. It's like, you can provably verify that that someone's done the work. They aren't a a BSer per se. So I think it's yes, kind of, I don't know where else to go with that, but that's on my mind at the moment.
Thank you. So I know I heard you talking on one of the podcasts you were interviewed, that you guys also were arranging like Wanu festivals, and not everyone can just come. The person has to be verified by someone you guys trust. So you are doing it kind of very decentralized, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
How does it go with that?
Yeah, so Pasnia is founded upon, in addition to peace, truth, and voluntarism, it's also founded upon security culture principles and privacy. So we encourage the use of pseudonyms, which did different identities per se, and with attached reputation and all. But yeah, like Vonu Fest, the events we have here, we have a handful of events here at Veritas Pasnia, our 22-acre homestead, and obviously we only want people that we trust to come out to our house. So that's first and foremost. But beyond that, building out the network based upon these things is just safer with the state of the world that we live in, not just with states, but also just private coercers. When things get really rough, it becomes harder to trust people when they're surviving per se, which is why we're building the parallel network so we aren't just surviving, we're thriving. But anyway, yeah, getting vetted usually isn't that hard. I think people envision like this highly rigorous process, but pretty much we want to be able to verify some sort of proof of work. We don't have to know given names, but there's usually a way if you've been in the freedom community for a while, you can point to projects you've done over the years, or you just basically finding someone. Like the anarchist community isn't that big. So like usually like we can find someone we trust in common that can verify the reputation that they force for in the use of coercion, those sorts of things. So yeah, it's important, just so that Pasnia can continue to exist, but it obviously is a little slower. Like if we just had a public event, like usually we have 20, 30, 40 people at Bonnie Fest depending upon the year. But yeah, obviously we could have more people here and have more of a flourishing agora. But yeah, not even factoring in states. There would just when it comes to private individuals in a community, we want peaceful people that we can interact with and build this community with. And just not everyone's fit for it, and it's okay. But yeah, so I guess that's a vetting process. Yeah, not too complex. Not too complex.
So I feel that you two, Kat and Shane, have been into building and being part of different communities for quite some years. Would you say that having a community like this is also a great wealth and a great
yeah,
resource?
absolutely. I feel so blessed. I have lived here at Greenbrier for 5.5 years. And, for example, we had a situation recently where my husband had a medical event and he was not well, and he was in the hospital and then ended up staying in Mexico for a while to get treatment. And I already had a built-in network of support. So, the kids and just everything that needed to get done. I had people that could come help me clean my house because I was overwhelmed. And I had people that could help me with the kids, and everyone just stepped in and instantly filled in. And when I compare that to, even 10 years previous, when I was still in my rage against the machine kind of, mentality, I didn't feel supported back then, but I live in a place where food is grown and children are. And so if something happens, we have a built-in support, and it's a wealth unlike anything I've ever experienced, because I know I'm safe. And I think safety is kind of hard to come by in modern society. People who have that 9 to 5, they're in the rat race. A lot of them are in debt. And that means that at any time you could lose your job and lose your house. My husband just got laid off in September. And you know what? I live in an intentional community where I work off my dues by teaching at the school. So I have a very low overhead, and we are okay. We are safe because we're in community, right? I'm not out there isolated in a house owing a ton of money, like unable to weather storms anymore. And gosh, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever been a part of, and I'm so grateful. And yesterday we had like 40 kids and like 60 parents at the holiday party, and everyone's helping and everyone's cleaning and everyone's bringing food, and there's crafts and activities and kids things, and the vibe was so high. And I just thought, this is it. I've made it in life, like life goal achieved. I did it. I won the game.
Yeah, that sounds really amazing. What about you, Shane? Have you experienced something like this
Yeah, I
with
guess
your
so.
community?
Yeah, so Pasnia is it's a worldwide network. So it's me and my free wife on the homestead, and we have a father and son that that stay out in their van slash tent. And they have for a couple of years, and we've been trying to we've been working towards building up a local community here. But yeah, I mean it hasn't been super easy on that front. But yeah, the events the handful or so that we have every year. Like I guess that's the spirit of OmniFest. And this past year, it's you never know who's going to show up. You never know what the theme is going to be per se. It just depends on who shows up. And this past year was kind of a breakthrough free energy sort of gathering. And yeah, just I guess like I am. It's crazy. Just as a facilitator, like I'm not an expert on any of this. I just bring these people together that may not have gotten in the same room, and just to hear the conversations and the networking that comes out of it is just yeah, it's wild, wild in the best way possible. Just some super highly intelligent, super driven people that are working to build freedom technologies. Just because it's the right thing to do, essentially. So no, I hope sometime we have. Well, I guess we're building towards just slow. Like I said, it's a vetted network, and it's slow going, but that's okay. We got nothing but time, nothing but time. Um, but Yeah, I guess the question was is community a great wealth? Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I guess just speaking to the digital part of it, even though it's not a physical, like it's not a physical community. I mentioned that general fund, and if people are in need and need help, like my co-host on the Bonnie podcast last year went through this really terrible situation in his personal life when he was about to be homeless. And within the span of like 2 or 3 days, he had I guess a couple $1,000s come in his way, so that he wasn't homeless. Um, so yeah, whether it's digital or physical, we can always come together and help. And again, cryptocurrency is a huge facilitator. That I mean, you can use other crowdfunding sites using fiat, but it was so much easier so much easier, better for privacy, and people can just send money to a crypto address. So yeah, no, community is huge. It's absolutely huge. It's Yeah, I guess the only way to get beyond subsistence living, like you can live on your own out in the woods or whatever, but it's going to be subsistence living. You're not going to necessarily thrive. Probably not. It's not a given, but generally speaking, no, it's just a hard life. Um, and Yeah, we can have fun and we can build freedom, and we can do more than just survive. We can beat the first realm, and maybe have some Bitcoin, or have some miners powered by free energy, in our back pocket. But yeah, I'll just leave it there. Yeah, community is huge for sure.
If I could add on to that,
Mhm.
I was referring to Greenbrier where I live, but I feel like I've been plugged into a broader community for a really long time. And I believe in a decentralized geography. I believe in deep roots in multiple places. So that way, if something happens, whether it's war, plague, politics, family crisis, natural disaster, whatever, you have places to go. And so
Exactly.
while Anarchapulco is not a move here project, it is a pop-up community once a year where we show up and we come together. I feel that that is a wealth beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And, Shane was talking about how they vet people that comes in. And I feel like a lot of times with these move here projects, including the Free State Project, the early days of the Free State Project, the first people who show up in a move here project are the people with nothing left to lose. They usually don't have children, they don't have businesses, they don't have careers, they don't have anything. They're desperate, they need community, they come together. And so often the early days of these startup communities are really rough. And Anarchapulco had really rough days and years. And what we had to learn to do was properly vet. And I think through that process of learning how to say, no, you are not welcome at our event ever again because of your past behavior. Sorry, we will not expose anybody at Anarchapulco to you because you are toxic. You're a thief, you're violent, you're whatever, right? We had to start setting those boundaries, and people's reputations have become really important when it comes to access to Anarchapulco. Because I am not going to expose anybody at Anarchapulco to the type of drama that you saw on the HBO series about the event. The show's called The Anarchist. If you've never watched it, those were our darkest days. And that's what happens when anybody is welcome. When anybody waving a flag saying, I'm an anarchist, I'm a libertarian, I'm a voluntarist, and they show up and their behavior is not in alignment with the philosophy of anarchy or voluntarism or libertarianism, you got to get those people away from yourself and your families and your communities, or you will never be successful. They will become a cancer that eats you alive from the inside out. So being picky and being choosy is really important. And that is something that, I like to say I put a dome of protection over Anarchapulco. And after I took over, that was my job. My job is to protect the energetic integrity of the event. That means financially, that means emotionally, that means psychologically, that means that I have to take the responsibility of committing an exorcism anytime we accidentally, inadvertently let something like this, come in. And I do, and that's the role that I fill. And so now that we've got to where we are now, I feel like the wealth that the community of Anarchapulco provides is astronomical, but it's different than the Live Here project where I am, right? I live here in this community, and that provides me one type of wealth. That's like a stability, it's family, it feels good on a daily basis. But there's also this Anarchapulco wealth where I know that I have people all over the world, where if I need to show up somewhere because I didn't dig deep enough roots yet in New Hampshire, but I need to be there because something's happening. I know I have people there, right? That I can trust, that I love, that are good to my family, that are good to their community members. And I know that I can show up in Serbia and I got people there because we've done Liber Poco there. And I know I can show up in Italy because my husband's family's there. And I know I can show up in Missouri because my family's there. And I know I can show up in Mexico because I've dug deep roots, right? In these places. And so these pop-up communities, these events, they are so important. They are life-changing. And what they allow us to do is come together and have those conversations that Shane was talking about. And they're inspiring and they're paradigm shifting. And, that's where I learned I was an anarchist, was at an event at the Porcupine Freedom Festival. I'm listening to people, minarchy, anarchy, minarchy, anarchy. And I'm listening to their philosophical debates. And I'm like, what is happening? And then all of a sudden I realized I'm an anarchist, right? But I didn't know that until I went to one of these events. I heard the conversations taking place. Then that one debate that I listened to sitting around a campfire made me have a core realization about myself that I have now since 2009. It was June of 2009. I had that realization on stage giving a rant at Porcupine Freedom Festival, Soapbox Idol. I'm a motherfucking anarchist, right? That came through me like a bolt of lightning. Well, it has informed every decision that I have made since that day. So that pop-up event, that Porcupine Freedom Festival, that 1 week out of that 1 year, it changed my life so fundamentally that I carry that philosophy and that mindset and that way of being into Greenbrier, into Anarchapulco, and into my everyday living. And so I think community is the real wealth, and the money is just the currency that allows you to pass some of it between one another and to support one another. And that is so important. If you're a crypto millionaire, bless your soul. I am so, so happy for you. I gave all mine away, and there's a bunch of projects that could really use your support. So if you're looking to support a nonprofit school in Central Texas, I'll tell you how to donate. If you're looking to support the Vanu project and what they're doing, Shane will tell you how to donate. Reach out to us, because there are givers and givers and givers that are paving the way and that are building, and they need that support from our community. So please, if you have those resources, find a way to contribute to the builders who need them. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, if I could just add one other thing there, in terms of like for the freedom festivals, that'd be like the biggest piece of advice I could give to anybody, is just get out to one. It doesn't matter which one it was. I started going to Midwest Peace Liberty Fest in Michigan in 2015, and it's actually where I met my wife. Went back there every single year except for last year. And the first 30 people, the first 30 vetted folks that came out here to do our rebirth of ceremony and Constitution signing and all that, they were pretty much folks I met there at the Midwest Peace Liberty Fest. So that's where, like if you're looking for, people to build with, like just start going. Start going to freedom festivals. You're gonna have a great time, and the seeds will be planted, and who knows what's gonna flourish in the future. So yeah.
And somebody can teach you how to use Bitcoin while you're there.
There you go. That too.
Exactly. And I can totally agree. to this suggestion, go to some freedom festivals. Anarchapulco has changed my life as well very much. Yeah, so thank you for that. But right now we need to start to wrap up, and thank you so much for all your stories and advice and experience sharing. Do you have anything you want to tell before we say goodbye to our audience? Maybe share where we can find you. We're gonna put that in the descriptions below as well, but you can mention it.
All right, yeah, I'll go first, I suppose. Yeah,
Yes.
so first and foremost, vonniepodcast.com. That's basically the educational front for everything. Most of the stuff goes out for Pasnia goes there. It's kind of the one-stop shop for most everything, whether it's audiobooks, free audiobooks, podcasts, anything like that. vonniepodcast.com. Then yeah, Pasnia, Free Republic of Pasnia, pasnia.com, paznia.com is the main website. Just go browse. It's part of it's culture jamming, so it's supposed to look kind of silly. And we make fun of the first realm. We make fun of the coercers. We have fun when we're doing it. It also has a layer of protection. If a state government, if the state or the United Nations ever looks at the website, they'll think it's a joke, and that's good. But yeah, go check it out. We've got our department directory there for our serious space program, Department of Transportation, Department of Education, et cetera. All basically a lot of them are just landing pages for as the projects are built and come together. But kind of gives you an idea of the vision, the Pasnia vision. And then alongside the just the main Pasnia site, pasnia.com/radio. This has been my big project this year, the Pasnia Radio Network, where we have obviously self-operational media, content that will help you teach you how to create free lifestyles. Beyond that, we like to have fun. Like I said, I've said fun like 5 times in the last minute. But there's a lot of entertainment. There's Bitcoin Bugle skits that are absolutely hilarious. And we also have a regular schedule. Celebration Saturday goes from about 4 p.m. Eastern to about 10 p.m. Eastern every Saturday with our I'll call it our flagship original show, Cloak and Dagger with Thane Riddle. It's if you're looking for a show on privacy and security, it's not necessarily for the for the beginner or for the faint of heart, but it's a very if you're looking to learn more about boring topics, technical projects. Thane is a very entertaining way to go about it. And then, yeah, generally speaking, if you're interested in learning more, joining the Pasnia network, we are, looking for, other nodes. We are looking for, other folks. So yeah, pasnia.com is the site. And the last thing I'll mention is Liberty Tech Publications. I've been publishing books for 7 years. We've got, I think like 40 or 50 books in our catalog now, from, freedom fiction, like agorist fiction, to strategy guides like Second Book on Strategy, and everything in between, essentially. We also offer ghost pads and privacy tools, ghost pads, ghost phones. My hardware hacker friend Jamin, he can pretty much do anything you want to. If you're setting up a custom mining machine, if you're setting up a ghost server to self-host, self-host your cloud storage or something, he can pretty much do anything. LibertyAttack.com is the place to go for all that. And with that, I really appreciate this conversation. Kat, it was good to connect. And Laura, it was great to be on here. I certainly appreciate the time and opportunity.
Thank you so much for being here with us.
Certainly.
Please, Kat, what would you like
Okay,
to?
so yes, first and foremost, obviously, if you're interested in these subjects, the Non Conformist Series episode that we are airing at the end of this month, get on that because there's going to be a whole bunch of conversations and presentations that are in alignment with what we're talking about right now. I also want to mention that immediately after Anarchapulco, there will be a TDV and a TCV summit. Those are separate ticketed events. They are run by Raphael of TCV and Jeff of TDV, and that's where they're really going to start, focusing in on money and wealth and cryptocurrency and building your portfolios and assets. Now, for the projects that I'm involved in, if you're curious about Greenbrier Intentional Community, you can find us on ic.org, which is Intentional Communities search engine. You can also visit us at greenbrierschool.org, and that really focuses on the school side of things. If you're in Central Texas and you're looking for a place for your children to grow up alongside like-minded families. This is a really, really, really cool spot. I love it. And I cannot express, or I cannot over express how fantastic it is to be doing life this way. I also think Greenbrier is a replicatable model. So if you are interested in creating a community that runs a school that's focused on the children, that also has places for people to live, reach out to me. We can talk about it. I think it's replicatable. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We are almost 57 years old. So, we've got a good long-standing track record. And if you're interested in learning more about my personal story of finding my voice and accountability within the libertarian activist community, you can go to my blog at sovereignliving.com, and that's where I talk about overcoming coercive control. And I don't just mean coercive control in general, I mean from within the libertarian community, and how I found my voice and began to hold those accountable who were exerting this type of non-libertarian force into my life. And I was able to, I think, successfully shift that. And we're in a really good place now. So that's sovereignliving.com. And of course, anarchapulco.com. If you are interested, maybe you're in Europe and you're like, oh, I can't get to Mexico in February. We have Librepolco in August. We would love to see you there. It takes place in Serbia. Of course, we now have Puerto Vallarta in February for Anarchapulco. And I just want to make sure everybody is super clear on this. The event is no longer in Acapulco. Don't buy plane tickets to Acapulco. The event is in Puerto Vallarta. And I know that some of you are going to show up in Acapulco and be totally confused why there's no one at the Jardín Secreto. So please, we are in Puerto Vallarta now. We are at the convention center in downtown Puerto Vallarta. It's going to be an amazing event. And we've definitely, I think, upgraded in a lot of ways. We loved the outdoor jungle vibe, but people were feeling too hot. And we now have air conditioning and an indoor stage, but also a lot of outdoor space. So it's going to be a really cool event. And this year, we're actually going to be running 2 stages simultaneously because we have such a stellar lineup. And it's probably too last minute for y'all with Vanu, but hearing about your books that you have, Shane, I'm really working on bringing the philosophy of liberty to this year's event. And we're actually doing a silver dime card project, and we just finalized this deal today. But everyone who attends Anarchapulco, the first 1,000 people, will get a silver dime card. And on this silver dime card, which we're not actually using silver dimes, we're using silver bits with Silver Dave, his company. But they are going to have libertarian philosophers and authors, and have a little graphic drawn on them by Ulysses XYZ Uli, who does all of our NFT art, and a little quote from them. We haven't picked the final authors, but if anyone has some suggestions, we are open to that. But we're thinking people who really, Murray Rothbard, Ayn Rand, these types, Ron Paul, who have done so much to bring the philosophy of liberty to the masses. So we have a lot of cool things going on this year with Anarchapulco, and we would love to see you there in person.
Thank you so much. So both Rafael Laverde and Silver
Day
again? Silver Day is going to be at the Non Conformist Series as a speaker, and also Jeff, that is the father of the Anarchapulco, and many more. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in today, and don't forget to join us on the 29th and 30th of December for the 7th edition of the Non Conformist Series, Unleash Your Wealth, Claim Your Freedom. But for now, we say peace, love, and financial anarchy, you guys. Thank you so much for being with us today. Bye.
Ciao.